Alright, so I am here to give you my review of yet another movie this week. Just cranking it down with the movies. Um, and I was supposed to give this movie tomorrow, but I had to do it today because I don't have the movie I was gonna review today on me right now. I have to wait till tomorrow or another day. So on the bottom you can see the title. It's called Bruce Almighty. Um, and I think that's fine. That I'm doing this one. I was gonna do this one tomorrow, but I'm fine with doing it today. So let's get right into it. This came out on May 23rd, 2003. So the movie starts out. They're at the Kowalski's cookie shop. I forget what they exactly called it, but there was the Kowalski family. They have the cookie shop, and these cookies have been popular for 3 decades, and they're gonna try to break the record to become to make the biggest cookie. And the news reporter was given this. His name is Bruce. He's a news reporter, and he works. Actually, I have to get out my little cheat sheets. He works for Eyewitness News at WKBW TV in Buffalo, New York. And when he actually started, one of the guys, I had to do something real quick. One of the guys, the old guy back there was picking his nose, so they just didn't even cut it out. And then when he asked the old lady why she wants to make the biggest cookie, she says it's because the health department or something found rat shit in the cookies, but it was just so they're trying to just prove that it was just a big cookie. But then oh, that was awful. They re-edit it and tell them, hey, this isn't gonna be this is gonna be for the kids, so that way they can come enjoy our cookies. So then they make it. They break the record, and he's like, cue the cheesy inspirational music, and they cues that. Well, it does just that. It's if you've seen this movie, you know what song it is. You've heard it probably millions of times. So then at the end, he talks about how a bunch of children worked together for success to make a recipe, something like that, of nuts. And he says and at the end he says that's the way the cookie crumbles. Remember those lines though. Well, the line I just said, because it gets used later on in the movie. And Bruce and his girlfriend Grace. And if you don't know who Grace is, she is Rachel from Friends. And they were watching this at their house, and Bruce is just sick of it. He feels like he could be a legit reporter, but he's stuck doing stuff like that, and he doesn't like it. He thinks it could be better, but his girlfriend, but Grace thinks it's fine. And she says that he makes people laugh, and that's what's important. It was funny, but he says that feels like he could be more serious. And they were making a scratchbook, or a book with pictures, as a scrapbook, yeah, of all the pictures that they've taken throughout their lives, and Bruce, I guess, isn't into making that, but Grace wants to make it because she wants to make a book with their lives. So he's like, okay. And then he finds this picture that looked like that was very inappropriate. We didn't get to see what it was. He's like, maybe I'll submit this to Playboy. But then she attacks him and takes the picture from him. So then the next morning they wake up, and Bruce says, maybe I can be a famous person from this. And then he's acting like he's a famous news anchorman, and he has the beard on him, and he's saying that's the way the cookie crumbles. And then behind he sees that his dog Sammy is pissing on the chair, so he tries to get him outside so that way he won't piss in the house, or at least get him outside. But obviously, right when he gets outside, he's done. So yeah. that's kind of that. So then he takes Grace to the work, and she works as a preschool teacher. And they're doing like a blood drive, and Bruce is talking about, and Grace has like this big has AP positive blood, so that's like a good type of blood, so they wanted to use her blood. And Bruce is like, well, that stuff probably ends up in a warehouse somewhere. So that was funny, and remember that, because that gets important. That's important throughout the movie. So then Bruce gets stuck in traffic, so he's going to be late for work, and he has a pager that's telling him, because they're going through all the stuff that's going to be on the news. And they had yes, they still had pagers. And that was awesome. So then he sees this. So then he finally gets to work, and he sees this homeless guy that says, "Are you blind?" Now remember this homeless guy, because we're gonna see him again. A little bit of a spoiler there. So then he gets to work, and they're gonna not completely cut his story he did on the cookie thing, but they're gonna like hold it off for another time. And Evan Baxter, who's like his rival, because they're both trying to become like the anchor man, because I forget the other guy's name. One of them is named Petey. His name Pete. I know that's his name. And he's gonna retire, so they need a new anchor man. So he makes fun of him for this cookie commercial, and then Bruce plays the trumpet. And is flipping him off as he's doing this. He's like, I can hold that note in all day. That was funny. So then he talks to his boss, whose name's Jack Baylor, and he says that he wants to do something. He wants to be something because he's 40. He doesn't have that much time, and he hasn't nothing to show for his career yet. And there's like this barrier that won't let him get to that success. And he says, maybe I need to become more like Evan. And Jack's like, you don't want to be like Evan. Evan is an asshole. And then he says, well, I can be an asshole. And he's like, no, you can't. So he was holding sandwiches in his hand. And then he knocks the plate of sandwiches out of his hand. That was really funny. So then Jack looks like at him and he's like, you going to pick that up? He's like, yeah, I'm sorry. So then Susan, I don't know how to say her last name, but Susan walks by and Jack says hi to her, and then Bruce says hi to her, and Bruce gets like completely denied, like not like no question. He gets denied. He's like, Susan just says hi to Jack and completely ignores him. That was funny too. And then Jack tells him, you're a good reporter, you make people laugh. But then he says, hey, I forget what exactly it was, but there was like this grand, big thing going on at like some sort of waterfalls. And it was like a company. And he says, he says he can go report it. And it's live, so this is his first big moment. And then he calls he calls Grace to tell her about it. And Grace was with her sister Debbie, and Debbie has a kid and a husband. We never see the husband in this movie, but we see the kid. I don't remember the kid's name. And he said, Grace, we find out, is upset because her and Bruce have been together for 5 years, and they haven't gotten married, they haven't had a kid, nothing. So I actually don't really blame her for that, because 5 years was a long time. But Bruce calls her and tells her about I just thought of a funny scene that happens later in this movie that I'm going to be talking about. But he calls her and tells him about that report he's going to be doing later. So then he goes to the report and he has to wear this umbrella on his head because the waterfalls will get him wet. And then we find out that, but before, so then the cuts to the news, and we find out that Evan Baxter is going to be the new Anchorman, and he says that's the way, with all the kids can, with ingredients or recipes that you get nuts for success. You know, that line that Bruce had said earlier in the cookie line, and Bruce gets pissed about this. So when it's his turn, like when it's finally his turn to talk, he doesn't say anything. He's just pissed. So then Grace was even like, "Come on, say something." And then Bruce says, "Let's hear it for Evan Backstabber. I mean Evan Baxter." That was funny. He pretty much trashes how he's stuck out there wet, and he's worked really hard, and Evan just gets promoted, and he pretty much tells the whole Channel 8 channel to go F itself, go fuck itself, and then they cut him off, but so obviously he gets fired. I mean, it's pretty obvious. And then he sees that homeless guy again, and he's being picked on by some sort of gang. I don't know. They never said their names. So then Bruce says, "Come on, leave the guy alone." And then afterwards, he kind of talks all tough to him. Says, "Yeah, you better keep running." So then the gang chases after Bruce. And the weirdest part was he could have easily just closed the gate and they couldn't get in. Well, they probably, unless it was unlocked, but he could have just closed it, get in his car and run. I mean, that's obviously what he could have done, but no, he doesn't close it. He just goes for his keys and tries to get in. And then they beat the crap out of him, though, before he can get to his car. And he gets knocked out, I guess, because when he wakes up, he sees that his car's all smashed, but maybe he was just so badly hurt he couldn't do anything about it. He's bleeding from his lip a little, and Grace says, "At least you weren't hurt." And he's like, "I did get hurt. I'm sick and tired of being kicked around by this world." He blames it all on God. Talks about how God makes sure everybody's okay, but he completely ignores Bruce himself. And says that God's like that 8-year-old kid that has the magnifying glass on an anthill, and Bruce is the ants. So I like that he said that. That was actually a good line. So then he also says that he's sick and tired of having a mediocre job, mediocre apartment, and a mediocre life. And then he snaps and pushes the box of pictures on the ground. And Grace is like, "Is that what you think? We think we have a mediocre life?" And he's like, "Don't make this about you." So then he leaves. And earlier in the movie, Grace had given him a prayer bracelet that the kids made for her. And it's supposed to help you. So he tries to use that, and he crashes the car into a pole. So then he's like, "You know what? Screw you, God." Throws the bracelet in the water and says that I'm not the one that should have been fired. You're the one that should be fired. So then he gets a page from a number that he does not know. I don't know what the number is. I'm going to see if Wikipedia says it. Yeah, it doesn't say. It just says it's just a number. So then he gets it the next morning, and he takes his pager, throws it out the window, and hits a building, and gets smashed, and then he gets hit by a car. And then Sammy pees in the house again, so he tries to get him out there. Obviously, it fails again. So then he's trying to teach Sammy, too, how to go to the bathroom outside. He says, "House bad, outside good." Something like that. So then his pager goes off again. I thought that was funny. And the reason why his pager goes off again, is you're gonna find out why. But this makes him feel spooky. So then he calls the number that's on the pager, and it plays this ad saying, "You have a mediocre life."
You done with the pizza?
I was gonna have some afterwards.
How many pieces you gonna have?
I'll have one.
Sure, you don't want to?
Well, I might want to, but if I can,
If I eat it, then you won't get to, will you?
Yeah. All right. So then, what was I? She calls the number, and it's just like an ad that would be pre-recorded, saying you have a mediocre life, you have a mediocre job, and then it says, "Is your name Bruce Nolan?" And he gets suspicious, and then he said he's told to go to this spot, and if he doesn't go there, they're gonna keep paging him too. And don't think that they can't because his thing's broken. I mean, technically he could just. I don't actually. They still probably could have gotten to him. You're gonna find out why. Because I was gonna say technically you could just throw it in the trash, never hear from him again, but they could still get to him because you're gonna find out why. So then he gets to the place, and it looks like a dump. Like apartment kind of place, and he steps in a puddle and his pants get all wet, and there's a reason why I'm mentioning this too. So then Bruce goes in, and all the places he's supposed to go to are room 7. Anywhere, like any spot is room 7. So then he meets the janitor and tells him that he's looking for room 7, and he says that it's upstairs. Take the stairs. And then he's like, well, I'll take the elevator. He's like, it's out of order. Then I'll take the stairs. Stairs sound great. So then the janitor asks him for help mopping the floor, and Joe's kind of being like an asshole about it. Says, yeah, I'll busy doing something else, but I'll take a rain check. I'll help you on the 7th day at 7 o'clock. And he's like, okay, I'll hold you to it. Remember that. So then Bruce goes upstairs and he sees the same guy working as an electrician. And he was trying to get the light to work, and it didn't work. And he gets it to work, and it looks like a ladder that he's looking up into heaven. And he says, oh, that hurts. It's like, well, it hurts for people that don't believe in me. And we meet. So then what else happens? Bruce tells him that, well, he finds out all about Bruce. He says, I know all about you. And at first he thinks he's like stalking him or something, but says, I don't need to. I've known about you for a long time. Talks about his father and his grandfather. Talks about how people actually, too, with great labor, go home smelling like crap. And then the most successful people. And we see that he knows everything that he's been doing, and he has this filing system about everything that's happened in Bruce's life. And one of the things that comes out is the stuff he's been saying about God. How, about the anthill thing, and how God should be the one fired. And Bruce we find out that this guy is God, and Bruce is like big shock because he knew that was coming, but he's like he doesn't believe in any of this because he believes that there's some sort of trick with the filing system, but there's no trick. It was just the way it was, and he does and he asks him how many fingers he's holding behind his back. He keeps switching. Eventually, he gets it wrong because he had 7, and then he has 5. So then when he pulls him out, he had like 2 extra fingers on one of his hands. That was pretty funny. So then Bruce is like, what do you want? Or something. And God offers him a job. He's going to give him my job because Bruce thinks he can do it better than him. So the second Bruce leaves that building, he's going to have God's powers. And Bruce doesn't believe in any of this. So then eventually when he leaves, He steps in that same puddle he stepped in when he came in, but this time he's able to walk in it because God can walk on. They say God can walk in water. So then the car, he can't start his car, and then he tells the car to start, so then it does. So then he drives away, and he's like, "Oh, that was just lucky." So he still doesn't believe he's of the powers, and he's like, "Okay, if everything's all fine," and he says that he's like Bill Clinton, which is like an action movie star. I think that's what the name was. By the way, I could have it wrong. And so he becomes him. So then he's like, "I'm not him," and he had like a gun when and used one of his lines. So then he's like, "I'm Bruce Nolan." So then he goes to a diner, and he has coffee. They give him soup, and he's able to like take the sugar and milk cream with them without holding them, which was pretty cool. And he asks for a spoon, and one comes out of his mouth. And he's able to like make waves with the tomato soup. So then he's like having fun, and this scares Bruce. So Bruce and God talk, and he didn't have much time to tell him the rules because Bruce just ran off. And he's like, "Well, the 7 figures scared me." So then he was like, "That happened to Gandhi or something." He mentioned like something about Gandhi, but he has to tell him the rules. He says now that Bruce has his powers, that he can use them however he wants. But the only rules are that he can't tell people he's God because he doesn't want that kind of publicity, and that he can't go against people's free will. Which means you can't force someone to fall in love with someone, all that. And then he's like, "Can I ask why?" He's like, "Oh, always." And they're walking on water as this is happening too. That was cool. So then God takes the bracelet, and he's like, "I'm gonna need this." I think he knew why he needed it because the end of the movie something happens that he needs it for. So then he walks away. Says, "I'm taking like a vacation or something." And then they play the song "I Got the Power." And then shows sort of a montage of Bruce using his God's powers. He makes a fire extinguisher go off, like he just breaks it. He lifts a woman's dress up so he can see her ass. There was a mannequin that had a shirt, and he trades shirts with them. And then he sees that gang that beat the crap out of him. So then they're like, they want him pretty much to apologize, and then they can move on with their lives. And he's like, and one of them, I'm assuming, is like the leader of the gang, and he says, "Well, apologize the day a monkey comes out my butt." So then Bruce says, "That day is today." So then a monkey comes out his ass, and the other ones run off scared, and Bruce makes moths come out of his mouth. I believe they were moths. I don't know exactly what they were. There was some sort of insect come out of the mouth, and they chase the grain away. And then he sees the monkey, and he's like, "You gotta go home, buddy." So then he goes back up the guy's ass. That was funny. So then he meets Grace back at the apartment, and earlier she had written on one of the pictures, taped a note to one of the pictures saying that they needed to talk. So then they said, so Grace gets tulips, he makes them appear, and he plays romance music, and he makes the moon bigger. He makes it less cloudy and makes the stars. He makes it like a romantic night. So this obviously makes Rachel happy, and he's like, "Let's not waste it." He's like massaging her kind of like in a way she likes it too. So they pretty much reference, and then they're gonna have sex, and then they play the Funk Soul Brothers song, which actually is a good song. So then he actually has sex with Grace without touching her. It's like through God force. That was funny. And when Bruce had made the moon bigger, he made like a tsunami happen in like Japan or something. So that wasn't good. So then Grace kind of gets suspicious about that. I don't know if she got. I don't think she thought Bruce was God, but and then when Bruce wakes up, he hears like these voices. You're gonna find out what these voices are. And then Sammy tries to piss in the house again, but then Bruce makes Sammy pee in the toilet, like the way we would. That was funny. And then the next morning, then he wakes up and I think he did something to Grace because she even said my boobs are bigger. So I don't know what he did. I don't even think he does, but. And then he leaves, and Grace is like, "Where you going?" "I'm gonna go get my job back." I was wondering how he was gonna do that at first, and then we found out how, because I've seen this. This is the second time I've seen this movie. So then he's back at so they go outside, like I don't really know where they are, but Bruce. Channel 5 News is there. They're talking about this report at the police station, and they see Bruce and they make fun of him for going crazy, and they say they're not going to find any news here. He's like, "Oh, I have a feeling I will." So then one of the dogs digs up a dead body, and Channel 5 News can't get it because Bruce locked the doors so that way they couldn't get in, like he did it with his powers. So then he uses his own camera, and he pays a kid $10 to use it. And they talk about it, you know, and then he reveals it on the news. And then I guess he made he talked about how Channel 5 News got arrested for having like 280,000 pounds of marijuana. And it was like all in their truck. And one of them, and the main guy was like, "I never seen it before, I swear." So then Jack says it wasn't his decision for him to go, and he says it's not my decision to give you an anchor job, but I can give you a bigger job. And he's like, he doesn't care as long as he has a camera, and he's good. So then it plays this montage showing back and forth, because Grace is finding out that Sammy's able to use the toilet now, and she just is all weirded out by that. And then it shows Bruce is at like a chili thing, like a how they made that chili, and then he makes an asteroid come down so he can get that news. And now they're calling him Mr. Excitement. I think that's what they're calling him, Mr. Excitement. And he's just becoming really popular. Yeah. So then, later on, this doesn't happen in order, but I'm just going through what I remember. Edwin is on his first day his anchor job, and since they're having a feud, he makes Edwin just make a total fool of himself, doing things like going like this to make his voice really high, making using output fart noises to make him actually fart. And he goes like that, makes a bunch of weird noises to make Edwin do that, and then he changes the prompter, and to humiliating things that Edwin says, and he has to read whatever on the prompter, so he doesn't really have a choice. And he said, and there were things like, I do the cha-cha like a little girl, my little nipples went to France, stuff like that. And Bruce sent Grace that day that it happened to go to a spa, and they're gonna take him she takes him out. He's gonna take her to a fancy restaurant, and Debbie thinks that he's gonna propose about time, so he's just all excited about that. And he teases it like it's going to. He gets on one knee. I like how they did this here, actually. It's really cool. And he doesn't. He tells him that he got anchor, and that Edwin, is it Evan, I forget, is it Edwin or Evan? Evan is going to finish out this week, and he starts on Monday. And Grace is like, "Wait, was this what it was all about?" And he's like, "Yeah." So then he starts to hear the voices again. So then he thinks everyone's just talking. He's the only one that can hear them, obviously. So then he goes outside and he asks God about these voices, and he's on Mount Everest. And God jokes about him that he's dead, and he says, "No, you're not dead. You're just it was just a joke." So then he tells him, he asks him, "How many people have you helped?" And he says, "Well, I was going to work on that. I just wanted to help myself first." And he says he helped Buffalo, New York. And he says, "Yeah, that was just Buffalo. That wasn't the whole world, because he has to help the whole world now." And then the longer he ignores these prayers, the worse it's going to get. So then, while Grace is sleeping, he's going to find out a way to contain these prayers so he can see them all. And the way he does it is it's like kind of like this online service. It's like kind of like a Facebook, I guess, would be. And when you pray, that's where they go. So then he just replies, "Oh yes," because he gets sick and tired, and he gives everybody what they want. And then they have like a party for him since he's going to be the next big anchor man. And everyone got what they wanted that party. Someone lost weight, someone got taller, somebody won the lottery, all that. And that gets utilized later. And Grace isn't there, obviously, because she's pissed about what happened. Because Bruce thinks of himself before Grace, which is not a good thing. So he tries to call her. She doesn't answer. And then he uses Sammy to try to get her to come, doing things like changing the channel to like a romantic station, and then handing her the keys. Well, so then eventually she goes. But then Susan, what a coincidence, she finally shows up, and then Susan hits on her, says, "You're on fire, some woman can't handle that." And she actually now that she's noticed him, now that he's in a big role, she likes him now. Something tells me this girl was probably a slut. Because I think she would have done the same thing to Evan. Probably, I don't know if he did this. She did the same thing to Pete. I know that guy's name that retired was Pete, so I wonder if she did the same thing to him. I don't know. So then Grace catches it, and obviously, it's this big thing like, "Oh, it wasn't my fault. She kissed me. I'm the kissy. I was trying to call you to get here." But it wasn't just about that. I think Grace was sick and tired of just being with someone and not getting married or anything. So she leaves. She's gonna stay at her sister's house. And then he just kind of starts talking all like, "I'm Bruce," and earlier he said that he's Bruce Almighty. "I don't need you. I can survive without you. You need me. I'm no." And then he's all upset though. And then Susan's like, "What's wrong? She can't handle some competition." Then she's like, "No, the game's rained out." So then he makes the fire things go off. That if there's a fire, the sprinklers. He makes the sprinklers go off. So then he misses Grace, and he tells God that you do anything to get her back. And he's like, "How do you do it without going against free will?" And he's like, "That's a good answer." And when they broke up, Evan even said, "I can see why you're single." So they play this montage, and Evan's trying to do things to get her back, like he carved on the trees. Bruce and Grace forever. They when the alarm went off, he says, "Forgive Bruce," and they played songs for Bruce, stuff like that. Made the clouds in a heart shape, and made the birds in a shape that said "call him." Doesn't work though. Tells him he comes and tells her that he's gonna be on. He makes his debut tonight. Says that he's going to that he's a wreck without her. He misses her like crazy, but she doesn't miss him. And he tries to make her love her using his powers, but since he can't go against free will, it doesn't work. So then he makes his debut and everything's going on. The power cuts out, but then since he has God's powers, he makes the power cut back on. So that and then the hockey team that plays for Buffalo, New York, won like the Stanley Cup, and somebody had wanted that in the prayers, and they got it. So then so they try to cut to the interview of Bruce makes the bottle opener. They were gonna sip some champagne. It goes into the guy's face. Then the power cuts on, and then it cuts back on, and then everyone's just having a rage outside because people won the lottery, but they only won like $17 because a lot of people wanted to win the lottery. Bruce gave them what they wanted, so everyone's going crazy. They're flipping cars. They're lighting things on fire. Bruce's sign catches on fire, and it falls on the car. So then he meets up with God, and he's like, "This is harder than I thought. I thought I could control them, but I just thought giving people whatever they want could be good." So then it's 7, so that means he has to mop. So he did hold him to it. So I guess you guys didn't think so, but he did. So then he talks about how you have to make things happen yourself. It's not just a miracle, but there are some miracles, like talking about how a mother works 2 jobs and is still able to go to a kid's soccer game when his kid says no to drugs but yes to education. That's a miracle, and he likes to see those type of miracles, but you also have to do things yourself. So then God leaves, and he thinks that Bruce is all fine now. Can do everything. So then the next day, Bruce does help other people. He unplugs the computer for the prayers and doesn't give people what they want, because God also mentioned that we're not really sure what we want, which is true. He helps a guy's car that had broken down. The homeless guy who had been seeing in this movie, he had been holding up signs like "Forgive me" and all that stuff, and he does the same thing. He turns down the Anchorman job, and he gives it back to Evan Baxter, and he congratulates him. So I think the feud's over. They didn't really say though. So then what else happens here? Evan takes his old job back. Trying to remember. Oh, and he also teaches Sammy how to take a piss. And I guess the reason why Sammy always went in the house is because he had done it so often on the chair that his scent was on it. So he just kept doing it. So then he finally taught him, I think. And then Debbie comes over to pick up Grace's stuff. And we find out Bruce, well, we knew about this before, finished the scrapbook, and he gives it to Grace, or Debbie to give to Grace. And Debbie tells Bruce that every night before she goes to bed, Grace prays, and she mainly prays for Bruce. So then Bruce looks it up on the computer, and it's all true. And one of the prayers, she's praying that she still loves him, but she doesn't want to love him anymore. So Bruce tells God that he wins. He can't do his job. Take the power back. So then he gets hit by a truck, and then he dies. So then he tells Bruce to pray, and at first he prays to feed the hungry and save America. And then God tells him, "That's good if you want to win America. Now pray from your heart." And he wants to pray for Grace. He doesn't want her back, but he wants someone that's going to treat her better than she was, and just to love her as much as he does now. So then he says, "Now that's a prayer, and it's good." And he's like, "It's good? It's good." And throughout the movie, they've been saying there was a catchphrase that Bruce would say, saying "It's good." I actually liked that catchphrase. There's someone I know in my family or something that says it too. So then God goes like this, clear, and we find out that that was to bring Bruce back to life, and the nurse or doctor, whatever he was, tells him he's lucky to be alive, and we find out that one of the blood donations was Grace's. What a coincidence, actually, kind of. And I think Grace donated it, and Grace tells him, and Grace comes back and tells him that he hears all that stuff goes to a shack somewhere, and then she says, then she loves him again. They get back together, and he has the beads, and he says, now you're just showing off, because I think he gave him what he wanted. So then back, Bruce is hosting the blood drive thing, and he's talking about, and we see the family again from earlier, and they made another cookie for a cheap plug, and he's being all comedy. And we find out that Grace and Bruce are engaged now, and the movie ends pretty much. We found out that homeless guy was God himself, which I thought was interesting. I think that's how he watches everybody. So then that's how the movie ended. Overall, I actually liked this movie. It was funny and impactful. It kind of teaches you something. So other than that, that's pretty much it. So it teaches you all the things that I guess God wants you. Always no one really knows what they want. They just say that they want a bunch of things. To always pray. That pretty much. And always accept the way your life is now. And another thing is to don't think you can do God's jobs better than him. But it was also funny. It had a lot of funny lines, and a lot of funny stuff happened in it. So that was it. That was the movie. Before, I definitely suggest you watch it. If you have a Netflix, it's on Netflix. Shouldn't be that hard to find. Before I go, I'm going to go over who played what character in the movie like I do at the end. So let's get into it. Jim Carrey played Bruce Nolan. I'm assuming everybody knows that. It's even on the title of the video. Well, the thumbnail of the video anyways. To be honest with you though, Jim Carrey did a great job. He always does a great job. Then Morgan Freeman played God. And the weirdest part was, actually, no it wasn't. Jennifer Aniston, who is Rachel from Friends, played Grace Connolly. Lisa Ann Walter played Debbie Connolly. Philip Baker Hall played Jack Baylor. Steve Carell played Evan Baxter. Catherine Bell played Susan. Sally Kirkland played Auntie Anna Main. I don't know who that. I forget who that is. Nora Dunn played Allie Lohman. Eddie Jemison played Bob. I don't remember anybody else. Mika Steven Williams as a boy on a bike, because earlier Bruce changed what his car looked like, and boy on a bike came up and said, "Nice car, man." Tony Bennett played himself. John Vladas played himself, and John Murphy played himself. Madeline Lovejoy played Zoe, and Noel Goldman played as the Hood. So that's it. That's my movie review for Bruce Almighty. I'll be back tomorrow to give you another movie review. And yeah, to subscribe, you can click right here. And that's pretty much it, guys. See you later.